on whatever she's working on until it's right. You know, she doesn't stop till she or whoever she's working with gets it.
She helped a lot of people, and she really got the whole essence of what performing was about.
Yo, who does her hair, man?
She's a cheerleader, and I think that's what you get from Paula. She's a cheerleader.
But I worked really hard. Nothing ever came easy to me.
Paula Abdul. Paula Abdul is accustomed to the spotlight. With the phenomenal success of American Idol, there are more Paula Abdul fans than ever. Millions tune in just to watch Paula with her fellow judges, Simon Cowell and Randy Jackson.
Miss Abdul, do you mind if we come in?
I think some days he's grown to really love her, and I think other days he's grown to really try and drive her crazy.
They look at her and they go, you did this. You were doing exactly what I am trying to do now.
300 kids waiting outside, all looking forward to this, competition and the audition. Paula was the star, she was the big star from America who was sitting between the two guys.
You've got to have gone through it to understand what these kids are doing. And in order to sort of comment and help these kids, you have to have experienced what Paula has experienced in her life.
Before she ever appeared on American Idol, Paula was an idol with the platinum records to prove it. Her brand of music and dance created a new movement in pop entertainment. She was a groundbreaking choreographer, constantly in demand and working with everyone from Janet Jackson to ZZ Top. Paula's determination and hard work played as big a role in her success as her talent. But that success came at a cost far greater than anyone knew.
I think my story is that of tremendous triumph with all the odds against me. That people don't know about because I would never let people know.
She will never admit to being in pain or never admit to being tired to a lot of people. And, you can get hurt that way.
I never wanted people to feel sorry for me. There's no way people could ever believe actually what really happened to me. With broken legs and broken bones and unbelievable things happening, no one would have known because my level of professionalism was really, really.
Injuries were a common occurrence for Paula through years of dance and cheerleading acrobatics. There were other injuries as well, but Paula always kept working. In 1988, an automobile accident with a drunk driver left her with a severe neck injury. She toured in 1991, dancing and performing on a broken leg. Her next tour was also marked by calamity.
I'm in a private plane, 7-seater, not even 40 minutes into the air. Bam!
An explosion rocked the plane. The right wing and one of the engines had burst into flame.
All I remember is the loudest noise, the biggest illumination of light, and then the biggest pain. I hit my head on top of the plane. I was passed out. I came to, everyone was holding hands, saying goodbye. We were plummeting.
But the pilot was able to bring the plane down safely, crash landing in a cornfield in Iowa.
Thank God we all were able to survive it.
Seemingly unhurt, Paula continued with her tour, but she knew something was wrong.
I started getting little seizures and weird things started happening. And I started getting really bad. And from that point on, it was downhill. And then there was one day I collapsed.
Paula had developed RSD, reflex sympathetic dystrophy, a disease of the nervous system.
11 surgeries, sheer depression, lost my friends, went through divorce, couldn't record anymore. couldn't barely speak. And in fact, there was a big period of time I barely had audible sound from all the scar tissue, from all the surgeries that I had.
The girl who had entertained so many with her upbeat singing and dancing was virtually crippled by disabling pain. With her diagnosis in 1996, she began a 6-year odyssey of doctors and treatments.
I kept having surgery after surgery, and I'd wake up and they'd say, "It was successful, you should feel better now." And I'd say, "Yeah, but I didn't." And I was told, "You won't dance again. Your pain from having everything you worked hard for, all of a sudden, go away." I couldn't dance. I couldn't sing. I couldn't do anything. Things weren't working in my body, and I had no idea how to dissect all the information, and no doctor really knew how to help me.
If she had to come out and say, "Hey, I'm not addicted to painkillers," because that was a rumor that was going around. And what she admitted was that she has this disorder where she has a lot of pain.
Then a close friend made a suggestion.
"Just try one more, doctor." She got me on a good day. I was beaten down. I was like, "No, okay. I'm in so much pain, okay." He introduced me to medication that helps eczema and psoriasis. That has taken me out of pain. The most gut-wrenching, crawling on my belly pain. Who knew? I'm dancing again. And I've worked with the scar tissue, and I'm singing again. Who knew? There's something about music and dance that is such an inherent part of my life, and has been for such a big part of my life, that comes naturally to me. My mom and dad said that at 4 years old, I seriously, with tears pouring down my face, all serious, I said, "I am going to be a famous performer." And it was right after I watched Singing in the Rain, and I said it with every bit of confidence a girl who's this big could say.
Paula grew up in the San Fernando Valley, a suburb of Los Angeles. When she joined a carpool in the 2nd grade, it led to a discovery.
I remember that I had to wait for those 2 girls to take ballet class, and I would do my homework in the waiting area. But I was fascinated. I was watching a dance class.
The teacher noticed Paula mimicking the dance steps and asked her if she'd like to join the class.
"Hey, if you want to take class, I could use some help cleaning the mirrors and wiping down the floors." And I kind of earned my own way of secretly doing my thing.
Once in the class, Paula proved to be a very quick study.
By virtue of watching a dance combination in my seat, I could get up and execute it. And quite often, when I was just watching, the teacher would have me come and demonstrate, which would be a little bit intimidating and embarrassing, but kind of rewarding at the same time. As much as people said I was a natural, I clearly didn't think that at all. I thought that, well, yeah, I can do the step, but I can't do it well. And I think a lot of that came because I knew that I was physically not the same as what I envisioned dancers to be. And that's because I was more and they were more but I could dance and I could perform.
In 1978, Paula went to an open casting call for an independent movie musical titled Junior High School. She impressed the producers, and they offered her a role.
We're gonna have a party this Friday night, be the greatest party.
It only paid $5 a day, but Paula had her first gig as a singer and dancer. She put her dance skills to work as a cheerleader, first at Van Nuys High School and later at California State University, Northridge. Her upbeat personality and acrobatic skills made her a natural. But even a cheerleader like Paula had a hard time staying positive as she tried to break into show business.
Everyone would say, you'll never make it. You'll never make it as a dancer. Never. I never even got to the place where I got to dance or sing or act because they cut me based on how I looked. I got frustrated, really frustrated.
With Paula's cheerleading background, friends encouraged her to audition for the Laker Girls. Her high-energy dance moves got their attention.
My son, Johnny, came to me and said, I have discovered the most phenomenal dancer I've ever seen in my life. We gave Paula a workout, and everybody immediately noticed she was something special.
Paula, what are you doing? She's like, oh. I go, oh, she's a cheerleader. She'd be like, yeah, I'm not a cheerleader. I'm a Laker girl.
You're a Laker girl? And how are you planning on making it into the business as a Laker girl? I have a plan.
And there was a time when you couldn't go to a Laker game and not notice Paula Abdul because she was different than the other girls.
She started dancing, and within a couple of weeks, they turned it over to her as a choreographer, and she just had a style that nobody had seen up to that point.
Got rid of the pom-pom and made them a dance team. And that's, the years that I became a Laker girl and the head choreographer, Laker girls became pretty much world famous.
She introduced a whole new style into it. You could immediately tell this was something special. And the crowd adopted that immediately and adopted her as well.
I lost a lot of weight when Paula was a Laker girl because there was a point when, during the Laker Girls, that's when you went and got food, You went and got nachos and hot dogs, and Paula made people sit and not go eat. I lost 300 pounds because of Paula Abdul.
Becoming a Laker girl was definitely not the area that I thought would be my knock door into show business. But that's kind of the thing about me, is I will take something that seems like nothing and I will make it huge.
The Laker Girls proved to be a terrific showcase for Paula, a crowd packed with celebrities all watching her work.
Very shortly, she became really famous.
In 1984, after attending a Laker game, the Jacksons approached her.
I broke into business my first jobs were the reunion tour for the Jacksons.
As Janet Jackson then came over and asked her to choreograph her videos.
Paula was a cheerleader for the LA Lakers. She parlayed that into going up as a singer choreographer. And actually, me personally, that's the part where I feel for her the most. That's the American part that's truly poignant.
In 1986, Paula won an MTV award for choreography, and her career got even hotter.
One of my other dancers was also a Lakers girl, and so I think somehow in the mix of all of that, Paula came into my reality and on my Richter scale.
And then I started working with Warner Brothers artist ZZ Top.
She made it easy for us, I mean, we made no excuses that we didn't know what we were doing. And so I think she had raw putty in her hands.
Paula was in demand as a choreographer. Her success in music videos and performances led to other opportunities.
John Landis, when he asked to meet with me for coming to America, and I remember I was waiting in the reception area and I heard John Landis screaming, "I can't believe Abdul's late! Get her on the G-Mail phone!" And the assistant's trying to go, she's out here. And then he goes, oh. And he looks out and he says, "What are you, 18? I went, "Yeah." And he said, "Not interested." I can't believe that you would think of not hiring me based on how I look. And he's going, oh, knock it off. And he goes, you're hired. The fact that John Landis allowed 4.5 minutes of uncut dance is unheard of. I knew Arsenio Hall and I knew Eddie Murphy. In lots of strange ways, Arsenio's career and my career were kind of like rising at the same time. Arsenio was already a family friend of mine.
I never knew either of us would be a success. If I had to predict, I would have said back then that we'd both be borrowing money from John Stamos in 2005.
The weird thing was Arsenio and Eddie both didn't even have a clue that I had been considered for the choreography. It wasn't until after I was hired that it was like, oh my God, this is great.
I was celebrating inside, but on the outside I was like, John, that sounds like a sound decision. Paula, to do the African choreography.
Yes! When Paula and Arsenio were seen out together, the rumors began. They became a favorite topic of the tabloids.
They would go out, you'd see paparazzi photos like every day or every week. They'd make sure that they got out there. And I think it was all very scripted. To my knowledge, there wasn't any romance there. Of course, you never know exactly what's going on, but it was clear that it was mostly one of those Hollywood staged kind of public photo opportunity relationships. And they had fun with it, they milked it, but there wasn't anything serious going on.
Yeah, they want to know about us, and so I would put a little yeast in it. We're married. We have 3 kids.
I want to know what drink is he drinking. But he does that all the time. In this past year, he was announcing me, my ex-wife, Paula Abdul. You never know with him. That's why I'm wondering, is it a good idea for him to be interviewed or not?
What else? What you want to say?
As a choreographer, Paula was at the top of her profession, but she still had the desire to perform.
Paula came to me one day and she said, I want to sing. And I said, do you really want to sing? She said, yeah, I really want to sing. She said, I guess she said she sang before when she was younger and that's really the direction she wanted to go in. And I said, Paula, if you really, really want to sing, you apply yourself. I said, you can do it.
I became a very successful choreographer who saw that there was an avenue. If I could sing, and I know how to put an image and movement, there are people that are willing to bet on me.
She has some spark and she has something inside her that this was definitely her destiny.
In 1987, Paula signed with Virgin Records.
They gave me no budget, practically at all, to make a record. But I was the girl that said, I've got this licked. Prince, I'll choreograph for you for free, you write me a song. Got it all worked out. I worked with Kool and the Gang, choreographed their tour. I need these guys to do some rhythm tracks for me. Don't worry, I got you covered on the next tour, choreograph your tour. Okay, and then I would go on and I would barter deals.
Paula moved forward with confidence, even when she had her doubts.
I would love to talk about the real scary feeling of like, oh no, I'm a fraud. I'm just waiting for them to find out fraud. Because I never knew that everyone else does the same thing. You end up becoming who you are by actually jumping into that circle of fear and doing it. And that's how you end up believing in yourself. Mom's assistant that worked for her was this young girl who said, well, my boyfriend's an aspiring songwriter. Can he submit materials? My mom said, sure he can.
With a deal in hand to record her first album, Paula continued searching for material.
My mother calls me up one day and says, you've got to come over for dinner. I've got to play you something that you're going to cry laughing. And, my mother's a world-class pianist. My mother proceeds to put into a cassette a demo that literally, it was an 8-track demo that sounded like someone literally was plunking on their computer and singing completely off tune. And we were crying, laughing. And then my mom said, how am I going to tell her? And she threw it out into the trash. And I was laughing and I fished it back out of the trash. I said, there's something there to this. There's something really quirky and cool. It was straight up.
Straight up now, tell me, do you really wanna love me forever?
In the case of Straight Up, the record had some traction already, and that video came and it just detonated the single. It just set that single off and it blew up. It exploded right on top of Christmas. And it was huge. The record just went crazy.
I didn't even know it was Paula's. I mean, I heard it and I liked it, and then I loved it, and I'm like, that's a cool song. And then somebody said, that's Paula Abdul. I'm like, wow, that's great.
Paula became America's sweetheart. She was America's little girl. She was having these we had more #1 singles than any debut album ever to that time.
Her kind of videos in which visual performance, dancing, singing, choreography, that became a sort of the bar for music videos.
Paula Abdul was really an 80s version of what Britney Spears would become in the late 90s.
Paula followed the success of Straight Up with Cold Hearted, Forever Your Girl, and Opposites Attract.
We come together,
It was tough because you're this unassuming kind of little choreographer, and then bam, you're it. You're the focus of the MTV Awards. You're the focus of every radio playlist. It's not about you helping someone else. Now you're coming up with stuff for yourself. And she was ready for the moment. She was absolutely ready for the moment.
At the 1990 American Music Awards, Paula took home the Favorite Pop Rock Female and Favorite Dance Artist Awards to go along with 4 MTV Awards, 2 Soul Train Awards, and a People's Choice Award.
And the winner is Paula Abdul.
First of all, thank you to all the fans for your love, your support. You've been wonderful, and I thank you so very much.
On the American Music Awards, we hired her to choreograph and create this opening number, and Paula always wants to make a splash. She wanted to incorporate animation like Gene Kelly had done, years and years and years earlier.
I remember doing a photo shoot with Paula, with Gene Kelly, and he looked at me and he said, she is the female me.
At 4 years old, I said, I want Gene Kelly to be my father.
And she came up with this really, really good idea using an animated figure, which I believe was called Scat Cat, if I remember correctly.
Here's a little story, and you're sure to like it. Swift and sly, and I'm playing it cool with my homegirl, Paula Abdul.
She was choreographing for all of these artists like Janet Jackson and Madonna, and the list goes on and on and on. And somebody said, hey, you should do your own thing. And then, hey, you should be nominated for an award. And then, hey, congratulations, you won.
The incredible success of Paula's debut album raised the question, what will she do for an encore?
When you have any artist who has a first record that can sell 8 or 10 or 12 million albums, which her first album did in America alone, you have a lot of pressure on you to deliver a sophomore effort that is going to be equally commercially successful, but also is going to have the staying power with the critics in terms of being a credible album. But when we went to put our heads around the second album, it was about being able to show Paula as a very credible artist, that she had real ability and real talent, and she was not a flash in the pan, and she was not just a pop-tart kid singing pop singles.
I was taking a risk and releasing Rush Rush, a ballad, when I'm known as a dance artist. The day it's released and radio ads all over the place, it's the day the Globe comes out. Paula's not Paula. She's not the voice.
One of the backup singers on Paula's first album filed a lawsuit against Virgin Records. She claimed that her voice, along with Paula's, was used on the lead vocal tracks on 2 songs, including Opposites Attract.
I think that everyone just assumed that the lawsuit was for real, that she didn't sing her own songs.
I owe this to my fans as well as myself. I have to speak the truth, and I owe it to my fans to let them know that I have been straight up with them, and I haven't deceived them in any way, shape, or form.
My life was on the line, my reputation. The judge thought that the deliberation would be a week long, 15 minutes long.
I know how hard it is to make it in this business. Therefore, I'm very offended. I find it particularly offensive that someone would attempt to take a shortcut to success at the expense of all the hard work that I've done.
And when it's all said and done, the vindication, woo, woo, buried on page 15 in the calendar section. Wow.
Once Rush Rush was released, it climbed the charts to #1 and stayed there for 5 weeks. 1991, Paula released her second album, Spellbound. To support the release, Paula was about to embark on an elaborate tour.
Something serious happened, I think the night before the opening show.
She had a broken leg, and we were certain the dates would be canceled.
Her knee was wrapped. She was in the back with her knee wrapped, and she had ice on one of her knees, and she's on a couch, and a minute later, she's on stage dancing for an hour and a half.
But, you know, she went out there, and she was able to actually pull it off.
That's the great thing about her. She puts on that game face, and you would never know she's in pain. You'd never know she's tired. You'd never know how hard she's been working. She's the consummate show person.
When the tour took Paula to New York, she found herself staying at the same hotel as Brat Pack actor Emilio Estevez.
We were staying at the Plaza, and it so happened that Emilio was staying at the Plaza.
And he left a message on the voicemail at the Plaza. And he said, "You never would have dinner with me in LA. How about here in New York?"
And at that time, she wasn't really dating anybody, and I would always hang out with her. We'd have dinner in the room, and, you know, we would just watch movies, and I'd constantly be telling her, you know, you really need to get out.
I thought, oh, he wants tickets to the show. So I left a message back for him. I said, just let me know how many tickets you need for the show, and I'll be sure to leave them in your name. And then he calls back and goes, I didn't ask for tickets to the show. I asked you to have dinner. And then I put the phone. I went, Daniel, what do I do? I said, I looked at Daniel, what do I do? Daniel goes,
No, you're going.
I don't, no.
I'm like, oh, you're doing this. If I have to pull you out the door and kick you out the door, you're doing this.
He totally courted me. It was very sweet. And then I got married. Go figure. Of course, that's what you do.
On April 29th, 1992, Paula and Emilio were married. The marriage was short-lived. They divorced just 2 years later, in May of 1994.
He's such a great guy. I love Emilio, not just because of, the relationship they had together, which was a great relationship. It started great, and, it ended, but it still ended as, that they were friends, and we all stayed really good friends.
When I hear his name and when I say his name, I smile. Fond memories.
Not long after her divorce, Paula decided to face an issue she had struggled with for years.
In the early 90s, she started getting very thin, almost frail. And that's when it really became obvious, at least to the public, that she might have a problem.
One of the hardest things that I ever had to face was admitting and acknowledging that I had a real problem. I had an eating disorder, and I needed help.
There's a tremendous amount of pressure in this business to look a certain way and to portray a certain visual image, and she was under that pressure.
I was so private about it that I didn't tell anyone. I found a remote place in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I found myself faced with being in a situation with other girls with various eating disorders. The worst part of it was, though, I was Paula Abdul. And I realized that they're freaking out that Paula Abdul is here. Took a couple days to make sure, I'm just like you guys. Please let me be part of this and the journey too.
During her stay at the clinic, Paula went on an outing with the other girls.
Fans followed us back to the clinic. And then the next thing you know, the next day, paparazzi, cameras everywhere in front of these girls and me. The next thing I know, it was just mayhem. And it was awful. And the best thing for me to do was to get out of there so that the other girls would be left alone. It wasn't fair to them. I had to do an interview, I had to do this and that. I waited until all the craziness died down. And 6 days later, when it seemed like no one cared anymore, after it was all over the place in tabloids and everywhere, I flew my butt back to Tulsa, Oklahoma and checked myself back in.
When Paula came forth with her disorder, honestly, she could have kept it within herself. But it wasn't about that. It was about throwing it out there and saying, okay, I'm willing to take the stuff that's going to come along with it, but I'm ready to give back.
Paula turned the trouble she'd been through into a source of creativity.
I'd dig down deep and I'd write. And I wrote really good songs.
She wrote a song for Kylie Minogue, and it was a huge success. It was like a #1 over there.
The song Spinning Around went to #1 in the UK.
And then I got a call from my attorney saying, there's a show in the UK that's unbelievably popular, and it's this talent contest, and all these kids come in and they're auditioning with the song that you wrote for Kylie. Can I have the producer's number? I'd like to talk to her. She said, oh my God, the show is so big that the Queen clears her diary so she can vote. I said, you mean the country votes? Yeah. And there are these two wretched guys that are just awful, and they tear these contestants apart and tell them how horrible they are. I went, oh my God. She was saying how unbelievable it was, and that probably the show would be coming to America. In about 7 months, we'll probably be hearing from us.
When she saw that program over there and they contacted her, it was like, she said, oh, it's really great. I have a problem with the judging because Paula's critical, but she's not abusive.
And almost 7.5, 8 months later, I got a call.
I always liked Paula as an artist. I actually used to fancy her. So I was looking forward to meeting her. I thought she was cute.
Now, my first day of work was in Los Angeles, and that's when I was going to meet Simon Cowell.
And I remember thinking, this is going to be interesting, because we are polar opposites.
I remember Simon and Nigel Lithgow were joking around at what's wrong with the American songs with these kids. What song is that they're singing a cappella? And Randy and I are going, it's Michelle Branch and Santana. It's like a #1 record, It's got great melody. And they're going, no. And they're going, we have up-tempo songs in the UK.
I remember saying how much I liked a Kylie Minogue song in England.
And they started singing the Kylie Minogue song. And then I started singing along. And then they turned to me and said, how do you know the song? It's never been released here. And then I went, there is God.
And she turned round and said,
I wrote it. And then it computed in their brains, P. Abdul.
I didn't know she had that talent.
And then it was Simon. I hate that song. And that was my welcome to America.
For someone who has performed as much as Paula Abdul, American Idol was a real change.
I think, she was ready to try something different, and I think we all kind of buckled down and went in and said, hey, let's give it a whirl.
This was a whole new experience for her.
It's a supremely dysfunctional relationship between three very disparate humans, and it's just complete guilty pleasure for me, and I think a lot of Americans, to watch.
According to Simon, I didn't have a personality before he came along.
This huge sort of love-hate relationship between her and Simon developed.
There are times that on American Idol, when Randy Jackson is talking and he's on camera, that Simon's poking Paula just to distract her before she has to talk.
This character, who sized me up and down. Hello, Paula.
Without question, she wants me.
And it was like, let's see how long it's gonna take before she wants to quit. And my first day, I threatened to quit.
The first kid comes in and he wasn't very good. Randy went through his usual, dog, I liked you. Paula went through her usual, yes, you're great. And I told this person what I thought, which was he was just terrible. And once again, there was just silence. And it was an interesting first day, to say the least.
They've had their tough times together. I think now he feels like he knows how to drive her crazy and lives to do it.
She brings kind of an in-between of the two kind of crazy guy.
I feel like we've all really found our places.
They balanced that panel to perfection. I mean, putting Paula and Simon and Randy on the same panel is the most brilliant recipe to judging that you could ever imagine.
Simon and I are record industry guys. I mean, I'm a producer, I'm also a musician, but I've been on stage with, as I said, it wasn't my own group. It wasn't Randy Jackson, you know what I mean? It was Paula Abdul. She did it on her own, and the kids identify with that.
Paula's a big celebrity, and a lot of those people who are of that age today to be on that show grew up with Paula Abdul, so she's a hero.
If you're a young person in America who wants to be a star, who wants to be an idol, you're gonna gravitate towards an idol.
It's tough to get up there being a non-pro and try and perform and get people to enjoy what you do and like what you do, and I think she's been there and she knows what it's like.
I root for them. I want them to do well, even when it's not going their way. I want them to exit with dignity and grace. My job is to be their cheerleader. My job is to remind them how talented they are.
It's not just about the show for her. I think it's about the whole connection from start to finish.
That's her. She's not putting on an act, that's for sure. That's Paula. She will find the positive and bring it out.
She really actually cares about the kids. It's not that I don't care, Simon doesn't care. We don't care as much, let's say that. But she actually genuinely is pulling for them.
I think she's called the nice judge.
Nice looking. Yeah.
It's strange. It's the 4th season of American Idol, yet I feel this is the magical season of American Idol.
And I think watching this show grow, as it has done to become America's #1 show, she's grown with it. Her confidence has been regenerated.
I guess the question is, what will Paula do next? What Paula likes, pretty much. Almost anything Paula wants to do.
Paula thrives on activity. She has a constant stream of projects going.
Her middle name should be multitask, because she's always done, she's never done one thing at a time.
Her mind is always going. Her mind is always in gear.
My attention span is like, all right, next. I'll start something and I'm excited. I gotta get off of that and go on to something else in order for me to come back and be excited about that again.
She's always trying to be original and come up with new stuff, and she could be driving along and you would think she was nuts, because, you know, she could be driving along and all of a sudden she would discover something new, and you're just like, hey, you're gonna kill us, you know? And before you know it, in a knocked out video, you'd see some driving thing that you saw develop on Laurel Canyon, you know? But that's how she was. She could, you know, something she could, you know, and then it's in the video. It's like, knocked out. You know, I mean, anything she did could become choreography, because she was always reaching and striving to find new moves, new stuff.
Sometimes I wish she didn't work quite so hard. You know, you have to take a time out for yourself as well, but But a big part of it is because she worked so hard. That's why she is where she is today.
The greats will sustain. Great things always happen to the ones that really got it going on.
There's nothing that gets in her way. There's nothing that slows her down. There's nothing that impedes her sheer will and her sheer desire.
She's a tiny, mighty mole.
Paula will always get out there and get it done.
I think she's got so far to go and so much more to give. And and she keeps surprising people.
Dancers come and go, but her talent transcends that. She is really a true artist.
Time is precious. So much time has gone by that I look at things that I've achieved and it's wild. And yet it feels like it was just only a few years ago. I'm not gonna say yesterday, but it doesn't feel like it was a whole long time ago. I'm looking forward to the next chapters.